So starting us off with JC Latham, I'm already prepared to know that I'm going to be higher on Latham than you are just from previous conversations that we had. I understand why he was graded as high of a recruit as he was. Physically, he checks every box. We talked
Yep.
about, the fact that he's listed at 6'6", 335. I think he's pretty close to that. He's got a big ass, and I always write that down when guys have a massive, wide lower half. That to me is very important for being able to anchor properly. Dude, I see the flexibility without a doubt. Like I see all of that. The inconsistencies as a blocker absolutely shows up. I think his angles, his awareness, his decision making is not great, but the tools as we're talking about here, he moves really freaking well. The way he
Yes.
springs out of his stance, the footwork, again, that recoverability is amazing. But we just don't get it consistently enough to really have um, a fully optimistic outlook where we'd be talking about him as highly as we talked about Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt.
So he is a former 5-star recruit. He's from Oak Creek, Wisconsin originally. Went to IMG Academy, I believe, during his senior year, maybe his junior year as well. But at least his final year, he was at IMG Academy. And we know why people go to IMG Academy. They're developing to be the best football players possible. That's why. It's basically a prep school for future NFL players. I mean, that's really what IMG Academy is. JC Latham, Joe, I agree with you. I don't think we see him very differently from a talent perspective. My guy is massive. He's got really nice length. I don't think it's quite as long as what Mims is, but almost nobody is. We'll get to him obviously in a second. And he started 13 games for Alabama during the 2022 season, all at right tackle, obviously with Tyler Steen manning the left side. I think the assumption is that he is going to kind of do traditionally what Alabama's done. The starting right tackle, now going to move over to left tackle. We've seen Alex Leatherwood do that. We have seen Evan Neal do that. We have seen some guys in the past make that. Even Jonah Williams was a guy that started off as a right tackle and then eventually moved to left tackle. So the thought process is JC Latham makes that move. And I think that for me, there's a lot to love about JC as a first-year player in his first year starting in 2022, because you mentioned it. Length, foot quickness is really good. Really good. I do think he has some flexibility to him. I think that there's going to be some recovery ability for a player like JC Latham. I am just not ready to go there quite yet with what we saw on film with 2022. Could be a massive riser. I'm telling you. But there's just a little bit of volatility in this one because he plays on his heels a ton and he doesn't really play with violent hands all the time. When he gets his hands inside, he's got some stupid force, man. He's a powerful kid for only being a true sophomore last year. But I really think that there was just some plays, man, where I'm just like, he's not, I just don't think he's advantageous enough with his base. I don't think that he plays enough on the balls of his feet. I think he really plays on the heels. What was the one rep I sent to you? He was playing against Derek Hall, I think, from Auburn, was a guy that got him several times in the Auburn game, where I look at him and I say 6'6", and if he's anything close to 335, I think he's more in the 315 to 320 range. But either way, that's semantics. Like, that's still good size. I don't think he plays with great anchor at the point of attack consistently. Foot quickness, great. Upside, great. Length, great. I just think that there's just a maturation that really needs to happen. I think that there needs to be a harnessing of the power profile, and I think he needs to play less on his heels, or else more powerful rushers like a Derek Hall are going to be able to get into his chest and take advantage of him from that perspective.
Right, that's where I'm at, where I think all of the physical tools, they check every box. Like there's not going to be a lot of tackles that we talk about in this class that physically can move the way that he can and position himself and quickly place himself in proper positioning to win reps the way that he can. But what kills him and what hurts him is what you just talked about, poor technique. And I also think, to take that a step further, a lot of times, especially as a run blocker, I think he plays with very poor positioning. He plays a little bit too high.
Angles
And then I've also noticed, his angles aren't great. I also noticed as well what tends to pop up as a pass protector is that he just constantly opens up that inside shoulder way too much. He allows way too much inside penetration, which that is the fastest path to get to the quarterback. If you open up that inside shoulder, he really needs to work on being a lot stronger at that spot. But I don't know, man. I feel like with all of that, with all these physical tools that he brings to the table, like it's there for him to be a first round pick. There's no reason why
Fair.
he can't be a first round pick. And if Anton Harrison could go in the first round where he did, that's where part of my projection comes with this, is that if Anton Harrison could go in the end of the first round to the Jaguars after not progressing one bit at Oklahoma, after we talked about him,
he was a lot better in 2022 than he was in 2021, Joe. Don't say
he
quite that
improved.
aggressively.
He improved a little bit. I don't know. I
It's
wasn't
a
very
lot better than
excited.
2021. Yeah.
I wasn't very excited about him at watching both years of tape. But
Uh-huh.
my whole point here is if Latham can make a slight progression, I don't. And I would argue that Latham is much better heading into his upcoming cycle than Harrison was.
At the same point is what you're saying, right? Like
Yes,
the off
the
season
same.
before his
Yes.
final year potentially. Yeah, I get there. I get there
Yes.
with that. Yeah. I think JC Latham is going to be in every first round mock draft, and he should be. He should be at this time of year because there is a season that still needs to happen. I feel like people get too upset over mock drafts and stuff this time of year because you have to put projection into the conversation. You have to. You have a whole season that's going to be played. The draft's not happening in a month. The draft's not happening in a couple of days. The draft is several months away, and we still have an entire football season to play in 2023. So I think that you have to have projection in there. So I'm okay with JC Latham being in that conversation. Right now, I don't think he's that guy on film. Like Joe Alt right now is that guy. Olafashano is pretty close to that guy. There's just the conversation between the ceiling and the floor is where my struggle comes with a guy like a JC Latham. That's my only reservation. And I would also argue, and again, this isn't apple to apples all the time because we're not doing the helmet scouting thing. But some offensive linemen that have come out of Alabama who have been really talented over the last few years weren't incredibly advanced from a technical perspective. So I have some doubts whether he's going to be that more technically refined entering the
Good
NFL
point.
because I saw like Evan Neal was a guy that was one of the most freak show athletes we've ever seen at offensive tackle. Would you say, though, that he was a really technically advanced player entering the NFL? I
No.
wouldn't. I would just say he was
No.
incredibly talented. Alex Leatherwood was a guy who was never developed. And I think that I thought Alex Leatherwood was overdrafted. I think most people did, and it turned out that was correct. But it wasn't a lack of talent at why Alex Leatherwood hasn't been in the NFL. I mean, go look at his testing numbers. Go look at his length. Like, he's a very talented dude. Just technically, he just wasn't that guy coming out of Alabama. So, yes, JC has a full season to do it. I think he can do it. I think he has the talent to do it. But I just struggle if he's going to develop quite enough for me to be comfortable in this conversation several months from now. But we shall see. Things can change, obviously.
So as I said, I'm very bullish on him. So I currently have him as a top 50 player. I think that he's good enough to be considered to be a top 50 player in this upcoming class.
I mean, I would firmly take him in.
Physically talented enough. Sorry, is the better way to put it.
Dude, we actually don't see this different at all. I would firmly take him in the second round. Firmly. Like, I would say maybe top 64 player instead of top 50 player, like you're saying. But, like, yeah, I mean, he has the talent and the upside in development to be a very good starting offensive tackle in the NFL. So, yes, I'm taking gamble on traits in the top 50 to top 64. Like, yeah, I would take this kid in the second round. I just think that we're going to see a lot of mock drafts. And I've already seen some mock drafts, Joe. Where he's the first or second offensive tackle taken. I'm like, no, guys, we're not there yet, man. We are not there yet. Could we get there? It's possible. But that is a massive projection if we get there, honestly. It's a massive one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is that we kind of have already done this where Latham's name is thrown in as a top 10 pick. And I don't think that we're there yet, but it's certainly he's going to get drafted way higher than his actual grade because it's positional value anyways.
Yes, he is. But I just feel like some people early on in this process will mock him incredibly early just because they're going to look at his recruiting profile and be like, oh, 13-game starter last year at Alabama and he was a 5-star. He's got to be good. And it's like he is very talented and he is good, but he's not there yet. Like, can we be fair to this evaluation process that he's not quite there yet, but he has the talent to? I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable to have that conversation.
We literally did this with Eli Ricks last year.
Yes,
we literally did this with Eli Ricks. And please don't do this to JC Latham. Don't do this to him because I think Latham's a lot more talented than Eli Ricks. I just want to tell you folks about an exciting new partnership that we have with this channel with Underdog Fantasy. Ever since I joined, I've been having so much fun. There are so many different exciting games that make watching games during the offseason more exciting. I'm not the biggest basketball fan, but it has made it way more entertaining since I found Underdog Fantasy. And my favorite game to play so far, which I think you should try out, is Pick'em. It is so easy to play. Just pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 20 times your money in a single night. Underdog keeps it simple With their easy-to-use website and mobile apps, pick between 2 and 5 players to fill out your pick'em slip, get every pick right, and take home some cold hard cash. Use code HACK, H-A-C-K, HACK, like the name of this channel. Use code HACK to get your first deposit doubled up to $100 by Underdog. Go sign up. You won't regret it. You're going to have a blast. Check out Underdog Fantasy. I also want to tell you folks about our other recurring sponsor that we have on this channel, that being BetOnline, betonline.ag, which is all the updated odds, news, and anything for sports betting. It's my go-to source for when I want to be betting specifically on games. I love betting on college basketball or the NBA, especially, again, during the offseason. Always looking for more fun ways to be focused in on some of these other sports. It's betonline.ag and use promo code BELIEVE50. It's promo code BELIEVE50 to get 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.